The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now logged into War Up on the WPIAL, featuring your hosts, Greg Warnock and Jeff Upson. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome into War Up on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock alongside Jeff Upson, and we're back after a weekend in Hershey. The season has concluded, the regular season. Obviously, we got the Dapper Dan and much more still to come, but have you recovered? Did you get a little bit of rest yesterday?
A little bit, not a whole lot.
Yeah,
you sound like you're dragging a little bit. You're normally a little bit more peppy, a little bit. I can tell in your voice you're feeling it.
Just a little bit, yeah. I mean, talking for 3 straight days, double sessions, going at it from. I think we walked in the arena around 8 a.m. every day. We walked out 10 or 11 every night. You did the same thing, but just talking all throughout the entire thing. It makes for a long 3 days, especially when you're under the weather as well. Battling through that too. So it's been.
Yeah, you had a 24-hour bug.
Yep.
I had a cold that hit me on the way to Hershey. I started feeling pretty bad, and but we fought through it.
Yeah. Mine started when the tournament started on Thursday, and that was a big 24-hour. And that's when all the wrestling's going on too. You have 3 different rounds in both classifications, so it was a lot to handle.
Yeah.
So we made it.
Well, we made it through, and so did a bunch of WPIAL wrestlers. They came away with the ultimate prize here, so really excited to talk to some of them and recap just the action from Hershey.
Yeah, as we do each and every year on the WPIAL show, we always try to get all the WPIAL wrestlers who win a state gold on the show. We will have that here for you today. 5 AAA champions in the WPIAL, 2 AA champions. But let's get right into breaking down some of that action that we saw. And 106 pounds was full of WPIAL power in the top. Curtis Phipps of Norman and Alejandro Herrera of Seneca Valley. Phipps came out and just dominated in his first 2 rounds, picking up a pair of falls before getting a 4-1 decision over Ben Mon of Cumberland Valley to make it to the finals. Alejandro Herrera, meanwhile, pitches a pair of shutouts, including a 2-0 win over Tyrese Fleming, who ends up placing 3rd in the tournament, and then beating a very tough Kyle Waterman 4-1 to make it to the finals.
Yeah, and this was I was not surprised to see both these guys, especially after the regional finals at Canon-Mac. I wasn't surprised to see both of them advance into the finals. Curtis Phipps, number 1 in the state all year, undefeated all throughout the year, and really came in as a top dog, but Herrera was right on his, just right there with him the whole time. And he finally was able to get over that hump and get that win.
Herrera had just a couple of great weeks of wrestling. I mean, he really turned it on in the postseason, and he had a great season all throughout, just a phenomenal freshman campaign. But to have that opportunity to win a state championship was just phenomenal. And if you look at the match between him and Phipps, it looked very much like the WPIAL championships. Very similar.
Very similar in the way. I mean, it had the same feeling towards it. I think there was a lot of similarities. Obviously, the last one went to tiebreaker as well. But this time around, I mean, and Herrera was pushed throughout the tournament. I mean, he had a tough opening round with Adam Jacob. Another tough match with Tyrese Fleming from Liberty, like you said, a 2-0 win. And then Kyle Waterman, he gave him everything he could handle. And, I was very impressed with the way he kept his composure for such a young kid. He never looked like he was scared. He never looked out of, he never looked like he didn't belong there, which was really impressive for a guy who's younger. Phipps is a sophomore, had been to the state tournament before. So for him to come out and do that, and afterwards he was just so emotional. He was so happy. So it was pretty neat to see.
And really that match comes down to a coin flip. Whoever wins the coin flip is going to be your state champion. But I'll tell you what, when you look at some of the close calls, Herrera was closer on some of those than Phipps were.
Yeah, no, he definitely was. I mean, Phipps, he left it all on the mat as well. I mean, he just wasn't able to do the things that he was able to in the past with Herrera. And I think it's not necessarily saying, well, Phipps is regressed. It's just Herrera's progressed so much in the last few weeks that, I mean, he's wrestling like, I mean, at King of the Mountain when I saw him, I was, yeah, okay, he's pretty impressive for a young, undersized 106-pounder. But now, coming in March, he just looks like a whole different wrestler, in my opinion.
And that's not to take away from the great season Curtis Phipps had as well. Just a phenomenal year for Curtis Phipps to come up just short. And interested to see how he'll come back next year. I'm sure he'll be back and ready to roll. You look at the other two WPIAL wrestlers, Brady Sherback and Carter Dibert. Sherback was able to get a win. Dibert got a pair of wins. Dibert was one win away from medaling.
Yeah, and Carter Dibert, I think he had probably one of the worst draws here for a WPIAL wrestler, coming out of that third position out of the Southwest region. He opens up with tough Kyle Hauserman. He beats him, but then he gets Kyle Waterman right off the bat, a guy who was highly ranked throughout the year. And then he drops down. He wins a good match against Aiden Lewis, but then faces Matt Mayer from Becca, who again ranked high in the state, and he loses a tough 5-4 match. So Dibert, I think, probably could have been in the top 8 had he been on a different part of the bracket. But yeah, that was a tough draw for him.
Yeah, he ends up losing to the 4th and 5th place guys in this bracket. And one thing I noticed throughout the tournament was you're not necessarily seeing, and I don't want to take away from anyone who earned a medal. They all were fantastic throughout the tournament. But sometimes the 7th and 8th place medals, even sometimes the 6th place, they may not be the 6th, 7th, and 8th place guys in that seat. It's just about a matter of where you fall in the bracket. And sometimes you get like a diver where you see the 4th and 5th place guy, or you may lose to the champion and the 3rd place finisher. So sometimes it just happens where you're in the top 8, but you don't get a medal.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately the truth in the matter. And we've seen this ever since the implementation of the 20-man bracket. But yeah, I mean, for example, the final season rankings that we have coming out, Dibert is 7th. I mean, that's where he should be ranked. I think if he's on the other side, if he's in Brady Sherback's spot of the bracket, he probably finishes top 8. Sherback had a really tough match with Ben Mon in the first round. He loses 3-1 on the last second. He gave up a takedown, but then he dropped a match to Matt Vulock from Pope John Paul, 4-2 in overtime, and I think that's a match Dibert wins. So, it's obviously you can say what ifs all over the place, but yeah, I just think we see that more and more now with the 20-man bracket.
And joining us now is your state champion at 106 pounds, Alejandro Herrera of Seneca Valley. Alejandro, congratulations on winning a state championship.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, talk a little bit about your past weekend. You had a fantastic tournament, only giving up 1 point in the entire state tournament. Just talk about each round, and first, the opening round. Were you a little bit nervous your first match at the Giant Center?
Yeah. It wasn't my first match in the Giant Center because of the teen state, so it wasn't really a thing I was worrying about. But I heard you guys talking about how Adam Jacobs is a pretty solid wrestler, so kind of gave me some nerves, but I was pretty confident going in.
And whenever you got that first victory from there, was your confidence high in knowing that, hey, you know what, I can do this and I can make the state finals?
Not exactly. I was just taking it one match at a time. As soon as I won the quarters against Tyrese, I felt like, I had a really good chance of winning the whole thing.
And Allie, we talked afterwards, and you had a lot of emotion after that victory. I mean, you're so happy. You're just emotional. What was that feeling like? I mean, it just seemed like a whole year of hard work just started pouring out of you. Talk about that feeling and those emotions after winning the state title.
I think all the emotions were good. I was just thinking about the tournament all year since the beginning. I remember going to the tournament the year before, watching all the every match in the finals, and I was telling myself I want to be there one day. And I was just all my years or all this year, all the hard work was for this tournament.
And we also talked about you had faced Phipps last week in the regional finals, and a very tight match that you had there with him. And it seemed like you just kept on progressing. Greg and I were talking earlier on the show. I saw you at King of the Mountain and Powerade and thought, this is a really good freshman. But then you turned it on in the postseason. It seemed like you just hit another gear. What do you attribute that sort of jump in your game to in the postseason?
How did it happen and stuff? like how did it happen and stuff?
Yeah, how did you feel, I guess, coming into the postseason? Because you looked good at the team state tournament, but then all of a sudden, you're hitting a different gear, and you're beating guys pretty well, late in the season. Do you just feel like you were on a roll?
Yeah, I think I was just had momentum coming in. I think I just went into the postseason like, all right, I really got nothing to lose. Just try to wrestle my heart out, I guess.
So the match goes to overtime against Phipps, and you end up going to the ultimate tiebreaker. Talk about what it felt like whenever your color came up on the flip.
I was just thinking 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and it's mine. But I was just telling myself 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. That was literally all I was saying.
Were you thinking you're definitely taking top in that position?
Yes, I was definitely taking top. Because I had a lot of chances of getting out on bottom, but it was just not there, and I knew he wasn't going to get out for my top position. So,
well, being a state champion, obviously you're going to have a little bit of a target on your back coming in next season. But talk a little bit about what your plans are for the off season and what you're hoping to work on.
For my off season, first of all, probably go to the gym, the weight room a little bit more. And I'm playing baseball this year, so do that sport and probably excel in that. And then after that, when that season's over, I'm going to come back to wrestling practice even with a lot more intensity.
Now, has it sunk in yet? It's Monday now. You're state champion. I mean, does it feel like it? Do you actually feel like you won the state tournament? Not
really. Kids in school were congratulating me, even though I didn't even know who they were. I was just like, hey, this is new. It's not as it came to me, but not fully. So I'm still trying to soak everything in.
Well, Hank, we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes to talk about winning a state title. Congratulations, and we look forward to talking to you again next season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allie.
Thanks again to Alejandro Herrera for joining us on the show. And let's now go into 113 pounds, where the WPIAL had a champion here as well from Shaler, Ryan Sullivan. And he just had a big tournament, as we expected. He's been wrestling great all season long. Opens up with a 10-3 victory before picking up a fall to make it into the semifinals. From there, he defeats Matthew Maloney of Liberty 5-2, and then Killian Delaney 4-3 to win the title. I don't think he was ever in any danger of losing this bracket. I
mean, the Ryan Sullivan from last year to the Ryan Sullivan now, completely 180. I mean, I just am really impressed with what Ryan's been doing this year. Compared to last year, I mean, he had a good year last year, but he never looked like he was in like the finals match against Doug Zapp. And now this year, he just came out. His offense was on. He was healthy all year. His offense was right there with the rest of them. Just really impressed me throughout, and it didn't stop at the state tournament. He didn't shut down. He completely opened up and was just really dominating. As you said, I don't think he was ever in any danger, and he looked really good.
Another guy with a great tournament was Kyle Burkholder. Comes in as the third-place finisher in the Southwest region of the WPIAL, but he gets 3 big wins. The biggest one against Will Betancourt of Manheim Central, a 3-1 win. Betancourt was undefeated coming in, and then he knocks off Luke Lucerne of Council Rock North 2-1 in the quarterfinals to guarantee himself a medal. But even after losing to Killian Delaney in the semifinals, Burkholder beats Andrew Smith and then picks up a fall over Cole Wilson for third place to be the third-place finisher in this weight class. And he does it. He was trailing, I believe, 13-0 in that third-place match. Then he comes back and gets a cradle and a fall to get third place. Just a great tournament for Burkholder.
Yeah, and I was looking at the score, the clock, and I saw, okay, 13-0. I thought it was over, right? So I walked in the back, and I come back out, and I see Kyle walking out, and he didn't look unhappy. I'm thinking, oh, okay. I mean, he just got tech falled, and then I look up, and they're like, no, he got a fall. He came out and pinned him. I was like, man, wow. I mean, that was just a capping of a great tournament for him, as you said. I mean, he grinded out really 2 tight wins against Betancourt and then Lucerne, and it just... Yeah, for a third-place finisher, I don't think a lot of people thought, okay, he's going to finish third in the state now, too. And, I thought he wrestled tough, but I thought Jordan Waters also wrestled pretty tough. Jordan Waters, he just drops a 2-1 match to Betancourt to just miss a chance to make it into the medal round, but he had a really big first 2 rounds. He beat Ben Turpak from Cathedral Prep, and then beat Max Mendez from Council Rock South, a guy who was ranked top 5 in the state coming into this. He was a Southeast Regional champion. Delaney on the bottom half, he was 3rd in the Southeast region, and you see him make it to finals. You see the 3rd place finisher out of the Southwest make it to the semifinals and then finish 3rd. So when you talk about the way the brackets are aligned, it can get a little dicey.
Yeah, sometimes the 3rd place finisher had a loss in the semifinals of the regional tournament and just didn't have the opportunity to finish in 2nd place, and so that's why the brackets fall that way at times. Frankie Benora of Moon, a guy who here at PA Power we had ranked as high as 2nd.
Yeah,
he had a tough tournament. He lost to Delaney 3-2. He had that tough opening draw, and then after winning the next match, he was actually losing to Turpak, and then picked up the fall in the 3rd period, and then he ends up losing a 14-8 match to Andrew Smith, who ends up taking 6th. A bit of a disappointing performance, I would say, for Frankie Benora, and he's a senior too, so he doesn't get the opportunity to avenge that performance.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. And Benora, I mean, he had a great year, a little up and down, but he had a good WPIAL tournament, and he comes in here, and Andrew Smith just caught fire. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. I mean, Smith was a guy who was really up and down. I mean, we saw him at the Team State Tournament, and I didn't think he didn't really impress me there. Took a few losses. In fact, he lost to Dom Giorgio from Kiski, and now all of a sudden he just catches fire. And those Nazareth guys do that. And Sammy Sasso talked about this when I interviewed him after the finals. He said these guys just grind, and they may have 10 losses on their record, but they're always in the match. And Smith showed that this weekend. So Benora, yeah, a little bit of a disappointing finish to his career, but still nothing to hang your hat on.
Joining us now is the state champion at 113 pounds, Ryan Sullivan. Ryan, thanks for joining us on the show. Well, Ryan, congratulations on winning a state championship, and just talk a little bit about what it means. You came up just short last year in being a state runner-up, but talk about what it means to finally get over that last hurdle and be a state champion.
I mean, it's awesome. Now I put a lot of work in and finally paid off. I mean, just putting in the extra hours, working out 2-3 times a day. Just all the hard work paid off at the end of the day. I had to keep working. I knew my goal would come true.
Coming up just short last year, was that the extra motivation you needed in the off season to get you over that hump?
I mean, 100% that was extra motivation, but I was excited. I was happy to take 2nd last year, honestly. It was an accomplishment for me. Because, I wasn't really expected to make the state finals, but it did push me. I knew I was, good enough to compete with anyone, so it just pushed me to get a state title this year.
And Ryan, I talked about this earlier in the show, and I've talked with various people, and I said the Ryan Sullivan from last year to the Ryan Sullivan this year, completely 180. I feel like you're a completely different wrestler. You're trusting your offense. You're getting into your offense. What do you attribute that to? I mean, you just looked so much more comfortable out there this year as opposed to maybe last year.
I mean, I would honestly attribute that to one of my coaches, Mason Beckman. He always tells me, go out there, score points, have fun. Just try to put 15 on the board every match. Just go out there, have fun, and let it fly, and then good things will happen.
Well, Ryan, I've had to hear that many times from Mason throughout the weekend, and let me tell you, there was not anyone who was more proud of you than Mason after you won that. And of all the finals matches, he felt pretty calm with yours. He wasn't screaming and he wasn't pushing me and kind of shadow wrestling throughout your match, because I think you pretty much controlled it, and you sort of did that all season. You've kind of controlled your opponents. It's just pretty amazing to see that difference this year. So, I mean, are you satisfied with the way the year finished for you? I mean, you got your state championship, and you got another year to go.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm satisfied. I mean, I still have bigger goals that are coming up in the future. Hopefully, I'm going to start competing freestyle and hopefully improve with that, and hopefully maybe make a world team. I mean, I'm going to go out there, try my best, see what happens. But, I wouldn't say I'm satisfied, but it is a big goal. I'm pretty happy with it.
And Ryan, you're being a junior, going into your senior season, have you started to look at colleges? Are you leaning towards anyone at this point?
I've looked at a couple of schools. My options are wide open. But, I don't know. I just want to weigh out all my options and then find out what's the best choice for me.
So you mentioned you want to get into freestyle in the off season. Is there anything else you're looking forward to as far as the off season and getting ready for next year?
I mean, I'm looking forward to NHSCA goals. I know we're going to have a really solid team. I mean, our club just had 5 state champs, so I think we can do great things down there as a true club and go out there. I mean, it's always a fun tournament, so I'm excited for that.
Are you going to take lessons on freestyle from Mason, Ryan?
Probably. Now I'll go down to the PRTC and then work out down there.
I don't know about I don't know about Mason's freestyle game. It needs polished.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been around Mason for freestyle a lot, so hopefully we'll work on it more this year. But I mean, he'll still be able to work me up anyway.
I think he will.
He'll remind you of that often too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he can teach me something.
You're right. I think he can.
Well, Ryan, congratulations on winning a state championship, and we look forward to speaking with you next season.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks again to Ryan Sullivan of Shaler for joining us on the show, and let's get into 120 pounds. Your champion at 120 pounds, Logan Macri from Cannon McMillan. He had a pretty tough draw. We talked about it last week on the show. He opens up with Brandon Meredith of Springford, and he really took it to Meredith in that match, just dominated the action. After picking up a tech fall over Portilla of Carlisle, he gets a tough 5-2 win over Sean Pearson of Nazareth, and then he beats Doug Zapp again for a second time this season with a 3-2 victory to win the state title.
Yeah, and of all the WPIAL State champions that we're going to talk to tonight, Logan Macri had probably the toughest road to the championship. As you said, I mean, he got the tough draw with Brandon Meredith, a guy who owns a win over Louis Newell, so you know he's no joke. But Macri comes out firing on all cylinders, beats him 10-4 in a very impressive match. And I didn't think he was going to have any trouble in the next one over Rafael Portillo. But then Sean Pearson, the number 2 ranked guy in the state, a guy who has a win over Logan this year. He beat him in the Cumberland Valley Kickoff Classic. These guys were 1 and 2 in the state, so this really could have been a state finals if you look at it. And Macri just goes out and controls the match 5-2. He looks sound and solid throughout. And I thought as soon as he won that semifinal match, I thought he's going to win the title here. And he did just that over Doug Zapp. So he had to beat some really tough opponents and route to that state championship. And Jeremy Elliott, who was helping me out here at the state tournament, he wrote an article on Logan talking about his past appearances at the state tournament and how Logan was disappointed with a lot of them. And it's really hard to come into the place that you haven't had a lot of success in and come out and just do what Logan did. But man, he looked really good. His offense was just on point throughout.
And he does it to beat a defending state champion as well to end up winning the title. If it's a guy coming in with any nerves or any issues at the state tournament, he cleared those by leaps and bounds as far as that goes. A guy who's always had a lot of success at the state tournament, Lewis Newell, always comes just short, but having a lot of success getting this back-to-back state finals. He had a tough road this time. After winning a 15-3 match over Pinheiro Johnson, he drops a 4-0 decision to J.J. Wilson of Cedar Cliff. Also want to quickly mention, as because they collided, Wyatt Henson had a big win over Cameron Enriquez 5-4 in the opening round, but then dropped a tough overtime loss, and I thought he might end up winning this match against Doug Zapp of Downingtown West. He dropped the 3-1 decision in overtime. So you drop down to the consolations, both guys in the third round. Newell faces Brandon Meredith, a guy he lost to in this team portion. He beats him 5-3 in overtime, and he and Henson meet yet again. And we talked about last week how Newell widened the gap on Henson. It closed pretty quickly. Henson, he had a great tournament. He beats Newell 3-1 in overtime. Henson ends up finishing in 5th. Newell ends up finishing in 7th.
Yeah, definitely not the finish that Louis Newell wanted to have. And as you said, he looked a lot better at the regional tournament than he did here. I don't know if it's a matter of maybe having a hard cut down to 20 or just being that senior and kind of, that's a long grind. I mean, 4 trips to the state tournament, and that takes a lot of toll on you mentally and physically. So, we see this oftentimes with seniors where it's hard to stay motivated, especially in the Consi round. When your goal is a state champion in your final year, you've been there twice before, you've been to the finals, you lose, and you drop down to the consolation rounds. How do you find that motivation to come back and say, all right, reset, we're going to go to 3rd? It's really difficult to do that. So Louis Newell, he had a tough match with J.J. Wilson, who I thought wrestled really a smart match against Newell. It's a match that happened at Powerade, and Newell did win that, but Wilson avenges that. And then, as you said, Wyatt Henson, a freshman who has nothing to lose. He's kind of on a roll. He has that tough match with Dougie Zapp right there with him. It was pretty darn close. There's some questionable officiating going on throughout the weekend, but that was one that it was a little touch and go there, depending on where you want to place it. But Henson then, as you said, he had that first opening round win against Cameron Enriquez, a guy who beat him at the PIAA tournament almost by major decision. So that was a huge reversal for him. So, Wyatt Henson really impressed me. Then he took Sean Pearson to overtime, and he just barely lost that. It was 1-1 going into sudden victory, and Pearson dropped him on his back. But, I was very impressed with the way Henson wrestled.
And he ended up beating Enriquez again for 5th and 6th. So if you thought maybe the one match was a fluke, he beats him twice in the same tournament after losing by major decision just a couple of months ago. And joining us now is your 120-pound state champion, Logan Macri. Logan, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, congratulations first and foremost on winning a state title. You've had success in the past at the Giant Center, but not the success you've been looking for as far as finishing at the top of the podium. How does it feel to finally come back to Canonsburg with the gold?
I mean, it's a big weight off my shoulders. I mean, it was my last chance. I was a little nervous, but was able to get the job done.
You had arguably the toughest draw out of any wrestler coming into this tournament. You open up with Brandon Meredith of Springford, and then from there you ended up wrestling Sean Pearson in the semis and then Doug Zapp in the finals. But talk about each one of those matches. Did you know going into you had to open up your offense and get a couple of takedowns early to get things going?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably my best position is on my feet, so just decided that that's where I would widen the points gap on some of those guys. I mean, Meredith's a good opponent, and he's pretty good at doing stuff at the end, and so I knew I just had to have a lead towards the end there, and was able to do that. And then with Pearson, the same thing. He likes to keep matches close and wait to the end, and just went in there and opened up the gap, letting guys up, really gets into their head, and I was able to do that in those two matches.
And Logan, we talked a little bit after the finals, and really the success that you've had in the Giant Center. I know you had talked about just having that in the back of your mind, like maybe you didn't reach your potential on the first couple of trips there. Was that weighing on you at all? I mean, did you feel like, hey, I gotta get the monkey off my back here. I gotta do what I know I'm capable of doing?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years just wasn't able to get it done, and of course that weighs on me, like thinking, could have happened again, whatever, late night thoughts. But, went in, cleared my head every day before I wrestled, and just knew if I wrestled how I'm able to, then I'd be able to win.
And how would you explain your offense this year? Because your offense really just, I think, jumped to a new level this year. It looks like the Dalton Macri type offense on your feet. And, we haven't really seen that before. This year, it's just so aggressive. You're so aggressive on your feet. Talk about that improvement, especially from your feet.
I mean, I think I was always capable of it. It's just I got confidence in myself this year and just pulled the trigger a lot more on shots and was able to work on some footwork and stuff and just clean some of my shots up and put a little diversity in there and just was able to take some guys down.
And Logan, we saw you have some success off the season. Super 32, I think you opened up a lot of people's eyes the last 2 years there. Going to tournaments like that and having success against nationally ranked wrestlers, is that something that you can say, look, I belong here. This is something I know I'm capable of doing?
Yeah, I mean, Super 32, 2 years ago was a really good tournament for me. It just allowed me to realize wow, I'm right there with these guys, if not one of these guys. And just helped me get confidence in myself.
And going along on that same note with your brother Dalton, he competed in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. You're going to be competing there as well. How good does that feel to end your season wrestling in the most prestigious event probably in the country?
I mean, it's huge for me. It's been one of my goals since I've been a little kid. I mean, I've been going up watching Dapper Dan since I've been 8. I was around Powerade time when I started thinking about it and thinking who I had to beat to be the guy for the PA team.
And Logan, you're going to continue your wrestling career at Chattanooga. Talk a little about your decision to head there for your college career.
I mean, honestly, it wasn't one of my choices. It wasn't even one of my thoughts in the beginning. But after talking to the coaches, they seemed like really good people, and that's what I really want to surround myself with. And decided to take a visit down there, and I didn't regret it one bit. I mean, it's a beautiful place, and it's just the guys down there are really good guys. I mean, you got Resnick from OJ. He's a good guy. PA guys, Dom and Wade, all PA guys, really good guys down there, and the coaches are good people and good weather too, so that doesn't hurt.
Was that one of the factors for sure?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I wanted to go far and experience a new thing.
Well, hey, congratulations on winning a state championship, and best of luck as you head into college.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Logan.
Thanks to Logan Macri of Cannon McMillan for joining us on this show. And now going to 126 pounds, another state champion for the WPIAL, and it was Sam Hillegas of North Hills. He wins his second in as many years. And boy, was he dominant to get to the finals. 3 falls, all in the first period, including one in the quarterfinals against Dalton Rohrbaugh, who finishes third in this bracket.
Yeah, no, I mean, Sammy just looked, on a different level. And, the jump that he's made since Powerade, I think really taking that loss to Bartlett was probably one of the better things that's happened to him, because he got that pressure of finishing undefeated kind of out of the way. I mean, we've seen that with Gavin going all 4 years. I think Sammy has really changed his mental game and just his style after that Powerade finish. I think he got stronger, and it really showed here in Hershey. I mean, he was just toying with people in the first couple of rounds, but he had his hands full in the finals there. Yeah, that was a very close match.
He really did. Chris Wright, a Central Dauphin, who had a tough quarterfinal with Caleb Morris. Yeah. Caleb Morris almost knocks him off. Wright beats him 4-2. But Hillegas gives up the opening takedown. I don't know if he just wasn't expecting him to come out the way he did, but from there he picks up a reversal. He picks up another reversal and ends up winning that match 4-2. But he ends up, after giving up that opening takedown, I feel like he was in control the rest of the match.
Yeah, I think he was too, and he had a few shots at the end. If they had been closer to away from the circle or inside the circle, I think he would have finished those. But I mean, I give Chris Wright props because he came after him. I mean, he rarely. This is a guy who I think has been on the cusp of doing really good things, and he has done. I mean, he's a 4-time state medalist out of Central Dauphin, so I was happy to see him go out there and battle against Hillegas, and I think it was good for Sammy to be pushed. And in fact, I talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, it was fun to be in that kind of match." And to give up the opening takedown, that's a huge. You're thinking mentally, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, look at Justin McCoy. I mean, he gets taken down, and then that was the match because Thayne Lawrence just took it to him. So Sammy Hillegas, for giving up the opening takedown, seemed very composed. He didn't look like a sophomore out there. He looked like a senior who was kind of controlling things, even though he just gave up the opening takedown. So I was very impressed with his composure and, the way he wrestled.
What a strong weight for the WPIAL as well, as they get all 4 guys on the medal stand. Jacob Ely and Gabe Willishell both make it to the semifinals, and they end up wrestling for 5th and 6th. Ely beats Willishell 11-5. So Ely in 5th, Willishell in 6th. Caleb Morris, a Waynesburg, a guy who has missed the podium to this point, he gets a medal in his senior campaign. He finishes in 7th place. Probably
one of the most impressive performances from the WPIAL this weekend was Jacob Ely from Hopewell. I was stunned at the way he wrestled just in his first state tournament. This was his first time making the state tournament. So what he does is come out, gets a tech fall in his first match over a very decent wrestler, Nick Toole. But then he beats Kenny Herman from Becca, who is a regional champion of returning state medals. He beats him 11-8. And then he has another regional champion in the quarterfinals, Gunnar Fuss from Harry S. Truman. He beats him in overtime 8-6. I mean, I was thinking, man, that was a heck of a tournament. I don't think a lot of people had him coming out into the semifinals. And then, as you said, he bounces back. And then after losing a tough match to Kenny Herman, who he had, he goes out and beats Gabe Willishell 11-5, a guy he lost to in the regional tournament. Yeah, so I mean that was a huge performance from him.
Yeah, and Gabe Willishell for his efforts as well. First round knocks off a guy in Ed Scott, who is one of the favorites coming into this weight class as a top 4, top 5 guy, and he beats him 6-4. Ed Scott ends up not even medaling in this tournament. So you look at how those guys performed, and just all 4 of them were just impressive throughout. Hillegas is going to take the cake because of how dominant he was to get to the finals, and he becomes a 2-time state champion as many years. But all 3 other guys really wrestled so well.
Yeah, Willishell. And don't forget, Willishell's coming up from 120. He was a 120-pounder who came up to 126 because of the log jam down there. And he just let it fly. I mean, he pins his way, into matches. He finds a way to win. He did have a semifinal slump, but he slid down to sixth place, but he still had a great tournament. He beat Ed Scott, as you said, and then Caleb Morris as well. Caleb Morris finally gets that his elusive state medal. He's been there 4 times. He finally gets a medal. He pushed Chris Wright to the brink there. Very close match. So you can't be upset with the way the WPIAL wrestled here at 126 pounds.
And joining us now is your 126-pound state champion, Sam Hillegas from North Hills. Sam, thanks for joining us on the show. Well, first off, congratulations on winning your second state championship in as many years. Does winning the second one feel just as good or even better than the first?
It feels better. I mean, now I got 2 under my belt. It feels real good.
And Sammy, we were talking earlier, and I was just saying how much you've progressed throughout the year, and especially after Powerade. It seems like after Powerade, you just sort of lit a fire under you, and you just seem to be really opening up your offense and seem to be getting stronger and more physical. Do you think taking that loss, I know it was hard for you to take, but do you think maybe it was served as a good thing for you, maybe a little bit of motivation, and maybe you wrestle a little bit more relaxed now?
Yeah, it was a real good thing for me. That after the loss, it gave me a lot more things to look at and what I needed to work on. And he's the top. I lost the number 2 kid in the country, so I mean, there's a lot of things I got to do to get better and beat those kind of guys. So after that loss, took time, watched some film, and got to work on what I needed to do to get better.
And you were impressive throughout the entire tournament in Hershey with 3 falls all in the first period. Talk a little bit about just how your confidence level was heading into the finals. Was it just sky high at that point?
I wouldn't say sky high. I mean, I knew coming in I was going to have a real tough game in the finals. So it stayed high, but I knew I had to stay composed and be able to wrestle without giving up too many points or being too cocky.
And you talk about being composed, and for a guy who's in his second state finals and then you get taken down to start the match, you still looked like ice. You just looked like, okay, no big deal. I'll fix this problem and get a reversal. A lot of people giving up their first takedown, that could be the match. What do you attribute that composure to? You looked fine out there despite giving up the first points.
I mean, that comes along with just, things you work on in practice. You might be down by a couple points or you might give up the first points, but you always got to stay on the attack and keep working for the next thing.
And then from there, you were able to pick up a pair of reversals. Once you got that first reversal, did you feel confident that, I got this match and I know I can handle it from here?
Yeah, I mean, once I got to the top, I knew, okay, this kid, how to get back to my top game, try and work for a turn. I mean, I didn't get one, but I rode him pretty good on top and was trying to wear him out some. But, after that first one, and I won that coin toss, I knew, okay, if I'm going bottom, I got to get these next points and try and secure a win.
Now, Sammy, you won your second state title. What are you planning on doing this offseason? I know we saw you down at Super 32. What are the plans for you in the offseason and really moving forward?
As of now, I'm going to take some time off to get to watch and talk some wrestling. And then I'm going to start up with some freestyle. And the plan right now is to try and take my last shot. Since I'll be a last year cadet for world team, I'm going to try to make a world team. And if that doesn't go as planned, I'm looking into going to Fargo.
Well, that sounds like a busy, definitely take some time off and enjoy the state championship. The one thing I noticed this year, excuse me, the Quest guys, you had 3 champions from Quest in AAA. Talk about rolling around with Ryan Sullivan and Logan Macri. What is that? How does that really help you and keep you motivated when you see, club teammates like that doing well? And that has to make you feel good.
It helps a lot because, wrestling with those 2 guys, they could be top guys in the country. And it's just getting different feels because if you watch some of the matches, they are completely 2 opposite wrestlers. Sullivan's like super fast and clean on his feet, and Macri's like real aggressive and always going after a guy. And it's just awesome working out with those guys because no matter what, like how good or how bad you're feeling, they're just going to keep coming after you.
Well, Sam, thanks for joining us. And again, congratulations on winning your second state championship. And we look forward to talking to you next season as you head for your third.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks again to Sam Hillegas of North Hills for joining us on the show. We'll go into 132 pounds. The favorite coming into this, or one of the favorites, Colton Camacho of Franklin Regional, almost dropped an opening loss in the first round. He had a tough matchup against Ryan O'Grady of Nazareth, and it took until all 6 minutes to win the match. He picks up a reversal to win 4-3, but it looked tight, and it looked like he wasn't going to pull it off.
He gave Camacho all he could handle in that match, and I think Colton, he showed a lot of guts in the last 10 seconds because for a while there it looked bad. I mean, I thought, man, this is it. Colton's going to go down and have to wrestle back for third, and he pulls out the big win, and then again has a good match in the quarterfinals against Michael Cassidy, beats him 11-1, and then Tyler Williams, he controlled that match with him and beat him 8-4, but man, Jeff Boyd from McDowell just comes out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, but he wasn't a favorite going in. I mean, at least from our point of view in PA Power, he wasn't a favorite, and maybe that was a disservice to him. But to be fair, he did not win a match in Hershey before this tournament. I mean, he went 0-2 in Hershey the last 2 years, and all of a sudden he comes out and wins a state tournament.
And look at the guys he beat. He beats Garrett Reinsfelder in the opening match 3-1, but then he beats Devin Britton of Northampton, who finishes third. He beats Andrew Wart of Central Dauphin, who finishes in fourth. And then he ends up beating Colton Camacho. And really, at first, Camacho was up 3-1, and I think that locked hands penalty in the end of that second period, locked hands, and then he gives up the escape as well. And I think from there, that just kind of set Camacho back a little bit, and it helped Boyd to elevate him to get that last points that he needed to win.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to give up a penalty point in the finals, and for him to give up that locked hands and then bring that match to a 3-3 tie essentially after giving up that escape. Momentum's in Boyd's corner, and when I talked to Jeff Boyd after the match, and he said, my gas tank's full. He said, I can, and he did. He looked like he could wrestle another match. I mean, he was definitely not breaking. If Colton was going to win that match, it wasn't going to be by outlasting him, with the gas tank. And Colton, it was a good match, but he just had a few, and then in the state finals, those few little mistakes can cost you. And after that O'Grady match that he had, I mean, he was fortunate to get into the finals, and it's not something he should be disappointed about. I mean, obviously he wants to be on top of the podium, but still, he had a good tournament.
Sometimes those O'Grady matches that you pull off last second is what elevates you to a run to a state title. And it looked like that was going to be the case with Colton. And I think with him, when he does fall behind or he's in a tight match, he does push it in the third period where guys can't stay with him.
Yeah.
And that's how he ends up picking an extra takedown up. But he couldn't against Boyd because Boyd is a similar wrestler in that nature, the fact that they both had high gas tanks and both are a lot of high energy.
Yeah, and I mean, that semifinals match Boyd had with Andrew Wirt, that was a tight match. Andrew Wirt's a guy who came in number 2 in the state basically all year, 2-time state medalist prior to this. So Andrew Wirt was a guy who I thought was probably going to make it to the finals. And, after Boyd beat him, I was thinking, man, this is going to be tight. Boyd's for real. And, that was a good match, a good tournament for Boyd all around. And that really propelled him in the spotlight. That's for sure.
Another medalist for the WPIAL was Nick Coy. He dropped a tight 1-0 decision to Jonathan Mears of Easton in the opening round and had to battle back. He wins 4 straight matches in the consolations to make it to the consolation semis before dropping a 5-2 decision to Andrew Wart, and he ends up finishing in 5th place, beating Tyler Williams for 5th. So Nick Coy, after a tough opening loss, it looked like, okay, he's going to have a lot of work to do, and he did it. He wins 4 matches and ended up 5 overall in the consolations to place 5th.
And he's another guy who came into the tournament not having a medal. This was his 3rd state tournament, and he wasn't going to leave there without a medal. I mean, the way he wrestled after he dropped that first match, I was thinking, okay, this may be, Coy may go 0-3 in those first 3 years, but he wrestled tough in the wrestlebacks. In fact, his first match was against Zach Macy from Chartiers Valley in the first round of the Consi, so he had to wrestle him in a tough match. And then he had a 5-1 overtime win over Michael Cassidy to get into the placement round. That was a huge match down in the blood round, essentially. And, I was impressed with the way he wrestled.
138 pounds, Noah Levitt of Kiski, your highest finisher, as he finishes in third place. Got to the semifinals where he did meet Ryan Anderson of Bethlehem Catholic and was able to keep it tight with Anderson. He ended up dropping a 3-1 decision. Anderson teched his way through the tournament except for the match against Levitt. When the brackets came out, I felt like this was the finals right here. It was Anderson and Levitt, and it looks like that was the case with Levitt finishing in third place. But another great tournament for Paul Feit of Northern York, and he had a tough one with Levitt for the third place match. Levitt ends up winning in the ultimate tiebreaker. For the WPIAL, they did not get any other medalists here, but one note, they only lost 2 guys in day 1. 2. Zach Macy, because he dropped down and him and Nick Coy had to wrestle, so one of them were going to lose. The other one was Jackson Henson of Waynesburg, a guy that we had ranked in the top 8 all season long. I think the knee injury really bothered him, but he dropped a decision to Zach Ortman, and then he dropped again to Nathan Schwartz of Hollidaysburg. So he goes 0-2 in this tournament, not what everyone was expecting.
Well, yeah, and I think that's attributed to the fact that he's banged up. I mean,
that knee injury, I think, affected him.
I'm surprised that he was able to compete, honestly, because of the way he wrestled at the Southwest Regional, and then to give up the finals to Levitt, you knew it had to be serious. And then watching him wrestle at the state tournament, I mean, he was not. He didn't wrestle like Jackson Henson, that's for sure.
Right.
I give him credit for going out there and competing and giving it a shot, but I wasn't, after seeing him in the first round, I wasn't completely surprised to see him go into. In fact, I thought maybe he'd forfeit out. But, you look at some of the guys here, and Levitt, I thought, had a great tournament, a really good tournament for a senior who came in, had taken a lot of losses to Jackson Henson. He got majored by Ryan Anderson at the team dual tournament, and then all of a sudden he keeps it close with him, but comes all the way back to take third. He found his way here. Very impressed with the way he wrestled.
145 pounds for the WPIAL. They end up with 3 total medalists. Job Chisco of Penn Trafford, he finishes in 5th place. He dropped a quarterfinal match to Colby O, who ends up finishing as the state runner-up. He lost 3-2. Sammy Sasso was the champion of this weight class and also the outstanding wrestler of this tournament. But Chisco ends up dropping down into the consolations where he met Alex Hornfeck in the 4th round. Prior to that, Hornfeck had to beat Nick Acuna to get a medal. So one of them was not going to come away with a medal, but Hornfeck beats Acuna 2-1. Then Chisco turns around and beats Hornfeck 4-0. Cam Connor of Kiski, meanwhile, he dropped a tough 4-0 decision to Ryan Vulock of Pope John Paul II in that tough upper part of the bracket. Really, you could say Vulock and Sasso were the best 2 kids in that weight class. They were both in the top with Cam Connor. Connor ends up dropping a tight one to Cole Hanlovic of Bethlehem Catholic 4-1. So he went to the 7th place match. Connor and Hornfeck, they go against each other, and Connor wins 2-1 for 7th place.
Yeah, and I thought all 4 WPIAL wrestlers wrestled tough and probably could have gotten on the medal stand. Nick Acuna just unfortunately had that tough draw where he was on the unfortunate side of the top half where he had Sasso and then had to face a fellow WPIAL wrestler, Alex Hornfeck, a guy who he has a win against this year, but lost to him most recently in the regional tournament. So Hornfeck, though, he wrestled a great tournament. I mean, he really came out. He came out and beat Cole Hanlovic in the first round match, which was huge, and then nearly beats Micah Hoffman. He was winning that match basically up until the buzzer, until Hoffman was able to secure a win 3-2. But then Hornfeck bounces back in the blood round. Very easily could have dropped that match after having that devastating loss in the quarterfinals. But he gets a win, a tough win over Nick Acuna, and then drops to Jobby, but he still gets on the medal stand. He's got to be happy with the way he wrestled. And Cam Connor as well. I like the way he wrestled. He does drop another match to Cole Hanlovic, who he lost to in the team state. He just can't kind of get past that hump with Hanlovic. But Chisco, talk about consistency. He beat Hanlovic in the 5th place match. So Chisco's the highest placing WPIAL finisher here, despite finishing 2nd in the region.
152 pounds, we mentioned this weight class was wide open, so we shouldn't be surprised that a 3rd-place finisher out of the Northeast ends up winning the state championship and not one of your region champions. William Evanitsky of Scranton was your champion. But all kind of craziness going on here within the WPIAL. First off, Luke Kemmerer of Hempfield drops a 4-2 overtime decision to Daniel Mancini of Owen J. Roberts. He had to end up winning 5 total matches, and he came back for third place, including a pin against Mancini in the third and fourth place match. You have Ty McGeary of West Allegheny. He and Jack Bloomer wrestle in the quarterfinals. McGeary, after already beating Luca Frenzy of Bethlehem Catholic in overtime, beats Bloomer 8-6 to earn himself a medal and a trip into the semifinals. Bloomer drops down to the consolations where he met Cole Spencer of Pine Richland. Spencer turns the tables this time around, beats Bloomer 4-3, so he ends up wrestling Luke Kemmerer. Kemmerer beats Spencer 7-4, dropping Cole Spencer down to the 7th place match where he lost to Luca Frenzy 6-4. So you have Kemmerer in 3rd, Ty McGeary finishes in 6th place, Cole Spencer in 7th, and Jack Bloomer without a medal.
I mean, you have the top 4 finishers from the WPIAL, and the champion's the only one who doesn't come away with a state medal. I mean, he had a tough tournament. There's no way about it. He had the Ty McGeary match was a close match, and then I really was surprised to see him drop a match to Spencer, who he controlled in the regional finals. So if you said you were going to get 3 guys on the medal stand here from the WPIAL, I would have said probably the top 3. But talk about Luke Kemmerer just coming back strong, and I think, he's another one that I think gets a little worked up before matches. I think he almost psychs himself out a little bit. And,
definitely.
After that Mancini loss, it was like the pressure was off him. It looked like he was wrestling like he should have been. He wrestled. I mean, how good he was. He pinned Mancini in the 3rd place match. So I think the pressure was off him, and he kind of said, well, the pressure's not on me. Spotlight's not on me. I'm just going to wrestle. And we see what he's capable of. So I think it's going to be critical for Keith Gavin, his coaching staff at Pitt next year, to get him to wrestle like that all the time, not just when everyone's not looking.
He has the ability to. I think he's one of those guys that looks at names and looks at where he's at in the bracket, and that pressure just gets to him each and every time. 160 pounds, WPIAL with 3 total medalists, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Zach Hartman of Bell Vernon finishes in 2nd, Garrett Ninehouse of Cannon McMillan in 3rd, and Luke Stout of Mount Lebanon in 4th place. Let's first talk about a pair of matches here. The Garrett Ninehouse-Carter Starocki match. Starocki wins 3-1 in overtime. Controversial, you could say, as Starocki reaches up, gets above the head on Ninehouse. As soon as he does, the 2 is awarded, but Ninehouse reaches up and grabs Starocki and cradles him. Not only gets the cradle in, but puts him on his back, but they already said the match was over. I was actually looking away because I had a couple other matches that I was calling. Tell me, Jeff, did he have the takedown? Did Starocki have it?
I mean, I think by definition he had it, but you have to allow for that reaction time. Do
you think because it was sudden victory, that's why?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think sudden victory is the reason why, but the controversy here, I think, was the no call and the what appeared to be a takedown for Ninehouse towards the end of the 3rd period, which is what I thought happened. And Starocki was fortunate to come out of that one on top because, as you said, I mean, as soon as he came above the head, and a lot of people would say, well, how is that 2 and not 2 for Ninehouse the first time around in the 3rd period? And I think you look at the sudden victory, the fact that it was sudden victory, and as soon as he secured what appeared to be 2, the ref called 2 and blew it dead. Now, Ninehouse continued to do the right thing and wrestle through it, and the way it ended, it didn't look like...
Yeah, that's Starocki won.
I mean, he looked like... Ninehouse looked like he ended up on top. I mean, so, that was a little touch and go, and it didn't get any easier in the finals either.
Do you think Ninehouse had that takedown then at the end of the 3rd?
I mean, from my vantage point, it looked close. I was next to the mat, but I wasn't on top of them. The ref had a much better spot than I did. So, I mean, I'm going to go with what he says, but it was close. I can tell you that. I mean, there was some. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have that.
Zach Hartman in the finals. I thought he would end up having Starocki's number. The way Hartman was wrestling throughout the entire tournament, didn't give up a single point, but Starocki somehow pulls it out in the finals.
Yeah, and that was one where people were they were adamantly upset about that match because you looked up and it's a tied match, and all of a sudden you see Carter getting a point to tie the match up, and people are saying, well, what was the point for? And it was for stalling. on Hartman. He had a Navy ride in, and Carter's on the edge, and he's trying to get out of bounds, and Hartman gets hit with stalling. There was a lot of people that were really, really upset with that call, and I think they have a valid point. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and Coach Doppelauer went crazy on the referees afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a bad call. I don't think he was at the point where it's like, okay, this guy's stalling. I think there's been many other cases throughout the entire tournament where you could say, how is that stalling but not this?
Yeah.
And you're calling it in the state finals where it has to be, I think, pretty clear, especially late in a match, to give a point that ends up forcing overtime.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's really what it was. I mean, it forced overtime, and I talked to Carter after the match, and Carter's a great kid. I mean, I love the way he competes, and he was really banged up. I mean, you could tell just watching him wrestle. He wasn't the same guy that we saw at Team States. His knee was bothering him, and I asked him point blank. I said, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, it felt like he was hanging there." He said, "But honestly," he said, "I felt like I was going to get out regardless." He said, "Once I got a restart, I felt like I was going to be able to get out and take the match in overtime." I mean, granted, they did go into overtime, and he secured the takedown, and he won the match. And you know what's great about this is Zach Hartman, not 30 seconds after his match, he's talking like you and I are right now. He's just like, "Man, it is what it is." I mean, what he's talk about a young man and the way, I mean, he just lost the most devastating match of his career. You know, he just lost on a controversial call in overtime in the state finals. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to move on. I got bigger and better things to worry about. I mean, that to me is the true definition of maturity. When you have adults kind of going nuts, and then the kid who it actually happened to, he's like, look,
can't change it.
Yeah, can't change it. It is what it is. I had a great career, and I was like, man, I was floored by the way he was acting, floored, because you saw how upset, folks were getting, rightfully so, I think. But he was just like, all right, got to move on. I wrestled tough. He said something like, I left it all out there. And he did. I mean, he did not lose that match because of lack of trying. That's for sure.
Luke Stout of Mount Lebanon finishes in fourth place. He had a pair of wins against A.J. Wilson of Solanco to secure that spot and finish in fourth place. And moving up to 170 pounds, boy, what a tournament for Jesse Quatsi, who finishes in fourth place. Yeah, I mean, talk about one of the most impressive. So you look at Jacob Ely and what he did at Hopewell down at 126. Jesse Quatsi, a guy who, under the radar, I mean, his first state tournament, and he comes in here, he loses a match to Trent Hidley. No surprise there. Guy's pretty tough, right? But he bounces back, and he just dismantles the rest of the WPIAL. He takes out Jason Montgomery from Bethel Park. He beats him 2-1. Now, remember, this is a returning state medalist, Jason Montgomery. But then he comes out 11-2 over Ben Root, who was very solid. But then the match that I really was sold on him, he beats Scott Joel 6-1 in the consolation semifinals. And really, I was super impressed with the way Quatsi wrestled throughout the weekend. And Scott Joel Bell Vernon ends up finishing in fifth place in this weight class. 182 pounds for the WPIAL. Tim Wallace of Albert Gallatin finishes in second place. He and Max Shaw of Thomas Jefferson met in the semifinals. Wallace beat Shaw 7-0. Max Shaw bounces back for third place. He beats Christian Saquette of Butler, who finishes in fourth place with a 7-2 decision. Saquette got pinned in the first round and had to come back in the consolations, where he wins 5 total matches, including an 8-0 win over Josh Krieger, who he got pinned by in that first round to get to third and fourth. But a great job by the WPIAL here, finishing in 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised to see the WPIAL finish 2, 3, and 4, but I kind of say I wasn't, especially Tim Wallace. I thought he was going to get to the finals. I thought he was going to have a really big redemption tournament here after just kind of losing his mind at the regional tournament and not wrestling a smart match. And he was right there with Josh Stillings. I mean, he was in that match. Josh just had a little bit more, and Tim had a really good tournament beating Max Shaw. Max Shaw had a great tournament. You're talking about a junior who comes into his second state tournament and really wrestled well here. And same with Christian Suquette. I mean, it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke that he came out and beat Tim Wallace, because he comes out and just wrestles his butt off. And really impressed with the way he wrestled. 195 pounds at WPIAL, not as strong in this weight class statewide, and it showed as Nate Ansell of Connellsville, your only medalist here, as he finishes in 6th place, but he did a heck of a job getting to the semifinals, winning a couple of big matches, including against Yusuf Aladinov of William Tennant, who finished in 7th. But Ansell, after winning a pair of matches, ends up falling down into 6th place. Yeah,
and Ansell, I mean, beating Aladinov's 8-7, really tight match, but then 11-7 over Nate Stein. I was very impressed with the way he wrestled. Getting to the semifinals, he was one guy who I thought probably was going to struggle, but then he comes back and wrestles a pretty tough match in the consolation match to Elijah Jones. But yeah, and Nathan Mankey, I mean, he had a good tournament too. He just lost 7-5 to Aladinov in the blood round, so they were right there in it. I think Mankey was, especially you look at his draw. I think he wrestled tough. He beat Robert Spezza from Becca in the opening round. I thought that was a good win for him, and yeah, I think overall you got to be happy with their performances.
220 pounds, Ian Edenfield of Laurel Highlands finishes in 5th place. Jake Slinger of Upper St. Clair finishing in 7th place. Edenfield here probably a little disappointed in the fact that he was a state runner-up last year, had high hopes, expected to win the title, but the finals matchup was he and Hunter Katka. Felt like at this weight class of Sun Valley in that semifinal, and Edenfield had Katka on his back, and he got the fall. Problem was he was out of bounds by the time he got the fall, so he was actually up 4-0 in that match before end up losing 6-5. Just seemed like his gas tank ran low late in that third.
Yeah, I mean, I think his gas tank ran out after that called fall. I mean, I think, after that, he just was not wrestling in that match. I mean, he couldn't get anything up. I mean, he was unable to. I mean, he got hit with 2 stalling points to basically lose the match. You know,
yeah, because he was up 5-4 and lost 6-5.
He lost 6-5, yes, because of the 2 stalling points. And just never looked like. I'm sure he's looking back and saying, "Man, I wish I would have wrestle a little bit harder," and but after getting that fall called and getting he's hyped and he's slapping hands because that's a huge match, and then to have that taken away, he looked like he got dumped on his head a little bit. He looked like he got hit in the head.
In the second period, he was on bottom and was brought down by Katka, and it looked like I don't know if he hit flat on his head, but like maybe brushed his head on the mat.
Oh, I think he definitely did. Yeah.
And from there, he just never seemed the same.
No, he didn't. And he didn't look same in the wrestlebacks either. I mean, I was surprised to see him, not lose in those matches, but he didn't look like himself. So I'm sure he's not happy, but he still had a great career.
285 pounds, Isaac Reid of Kiski is your champion. He defeats Quan DeBow of Cathedral Prep 3-1 in the finals to win the title. Gerald Brown of West Mifflin, he's your 3rd place finisher. The biggest surprise to me, I thought, was Brown losing to Michael Wolfgram. Not that he lost, but he lost 13-2, and he ends up coming all the way back, did Brown. He won 4 total matches to finish 3rd, including a pin over Wolfgram for 3rd and 4th.
See, I wasn't surprised by that whatsoever because I saw Wolfgram wrestle multiple times this year, and he puts up a lot of points in a short amount of time, the way he wrestles. So once he got on a roll, I thought, he was just going to keep on racking up. So I wasn't surprised to see that happen against Wolfgram, but what I was surprised is the way that Gerald responded to that in the Consi round for him to come all the way back for 3rd, including an avenge, that loss to Wolfgram, I thought was huge for him. And Isaac Reid was so consistent, right, throughout the entire tournament. But Gerald Brown proved himself to be a worthy opponent here. I like the way he wrestled.
And joining us now is your 285-pound state champion, Isaac Reid from Kiski. Isaac, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, congratulations on winning a state championship. Last year you finished in 2nd place. This year you get the gold. How much different does this year feel?
Still sinking in, so it definitely feels a lot better. And especially the journey it took through to get here, it had a lot of meaning to it, so it feels good.
We talked about, we had you on earlier in the season, you talked about your experience throughout this season, but talk about the state tournament. You seemed like you were in control of every single match. You were never in a bad position. How were you so confident and able to just control each and every match?
Well, I just felt calm and confident and kept trusting in God, and the saying I have is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I went in there, win or lose, just happy to be alive and thankful for one last shot at it. And was more just like a fun experience, and I didn't have any pressure really. I just felt more relaxed than ever, and I felt like it really played key to maintaining my energy and using it efficiently. So.
Yeah, and Isaac, I saw you before the finals, and you're smiling. You seem so relaxed. And I'm thinking, man, if he's feeling like this right now before the finals, he's going to go out there and just do what he has to do. And I don't think there was any nervous energy there. Do you think having been in the finals the year before, did that help? You knew the process, you knew what to expect, and you just seemed so calm.
Yeah, that definitely had something to do with it, I think. But. Yeah, I feel like I would have been the same way. Either way, it's just, I didn't feel any pressure at all. So I was ready to go, and I felt good. So
does it feel good to come back to Kiski having won that state championship that eluded you? Has it sunk in yet that you're a state champion?
Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't really sunk in completely because it's been my goal my whole life, pretty much, like one of the biggest ones. So, I'm definitely never going to forget about it, and I can always stay state champion. So, I think that aspect of it's very awesome. But still, it's only a couple of days after I'm ready to get back on that mat, start grinding and preparing the way for bigger and better things to come. So it was a nice first step, but I had the appetizer. I'm still not full. I'm ready to get that steak and potatoes, So we'll see how things go, and I'm looking forward to the future. So I'm pretty excited.
We'll talk about that steak and potatoes. That's your headed to Lock Haven. Talked about your decision and why you decided you want to head to Lock Haven.
Oh, the coaches there are amazing. I couldn't thank them enough for just how well they treated me during the situation. Just they called me and I'm all worried, like, oh man, I hope they're not like concerned about this. And they're like, hey, Coach Moore's like, hey, everything's all right. We understand it's just a part of life, and I feel like this is only going to make you stronger. And they stuck through me through it all, and I just couldn't make them enough. And Wolfie, their new assistant, he came out to Kiski for my first match back. He came out to practice with me. We met up in Johnstown before the season, so it was just awesome. I have a support staff that is willing to go out of their way to make things work out. So I couldn't make them enough. So, and the team on that aspect, the team's on the rise. They just won the EWLs, and I remember, it was the first day I went to the hospital when they beat Rutgers. So, I was in a good bit of pain then, but hearing them beat Rutgers at least put like, hey, that's pretty awesome stuff. So it's probably the only good news I got that night. But I'm very excited to go there. And I saw Luke McGonagall's match. He's wrestling like an animal. So we got some guys coming too. So it's going to be a fun ride.
Well, Isaac, you get to wrestle in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. Talk about what that's going to be like.
I still don't know who I'm going to have to wrestle, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely calm, confident, and I'm not going to hesitate. It's a great opportunity, and I'm very appreciative and thankful that I've been selected to participate in such an event. So I'd like to give glory to God for that, and I'm excited. So.
It's been a lot of fun watching you throughout your high school career. Congratulations on winning the state championship, and best of luck as you head to Lock Haven.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to Isaac Reid of Kiski for joining us on the show. And we got to give us a shout-out to all of our friends at Kiski. They threw us a couple of shirts our way, thanking us for our coverage. And, it's been fun watching their whole team. But, I always enjoyed watching Isaac, and as well as the whole team.
Yeah, I was happy when Chris Heater agreed to give us some team T-shirts because we talked about it all year, and
right.
I hooked them up too. I gave them some PA Power shirts, so I'm always looking to support local wrestling teams, and I mean, I'll take a shirt. Absolutely, I'll take a shirt.
We'll do the swap. Right?
Yeah, I'll do a swap. I'll give them a PA Power shirt for any shirt.
Promote our brand. We'll promote your school. I mean, we're all about that.
Absolutely.
This is a WPIAL show. I mean, if you guys want us to promote your brand, we're all about that.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and slide down into AA now. We're at 106 pounds for AA. Connor Redinger of Quaker Valley was the only wrestler to come home with a medal. He made it to the semifinals before he dropped a 5-0 decision to Patrick DeMark of Trinity, but he battled back to finish in third place. Another guy, Joseph Fisher of South Park, a guy who we thought may come home with a medal, dropped a tough 1-0 decision to Sheldon Seymour in the quarterfinals, but then ended up getting pinned by Logan Jaquay to not finish in the top 8. Ryan Michaels of Elizabeth Ward also close to getting a medal, but he was 1 win shy as well.
Yeah, and Joey Fisher, I mean, he had a tough first-round match with Bailey Gimber. He comes out on top of that. I thought he wrestled really tough. And then he gave Sheldon Seymour, a guy who's been ranked as high as number 1 in the state, he gave him all he could handle in a 1-0 match. But then just that wrestle-back match with Jaquay, he was unable to get out from that one. And, it's tough to come back from a really tough defeat like he did to Seymour. But Redinger, I mean, I thought he didn't wrestle well in the semifinals. He looked really good up until then, but then just kind of shut down. And
I wonder if nerves played a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could. I thought, he probably was going to wrestle a little bit better than he did. He looked really good in the first opening rounds, and it seemed like afterwards he wrestled really tough in the Conti round. So I think I attribute that to a little bit of nerves being in the state semifinals, but I think he'll be fine.
113 pounds, Ian Oswald of Burrow had a fantastic tournament. He wins his opening match against Noah Hunt of Warrior Run and then drops a 5-0 decision to Bo Bayless, the returning state champion from Reynolds. But then he rattles off 3 straight wins, all tight wins, a 1-0 win, 3-1 in overtime, 4-2 in 2 minutes of overtime against Wyatt Lutz of Montoursville to get to the 3rd and 4th place match. He drops a 1-0 decision to Bayless this time around, but Ian Oswald, a 4th place finisher in the state.
It was crazy to see him grind out these wins because every single one of those matches easily could have gone the other way. That match with Dalton Gimber was a very tight match. Then he gets Nate Smith, who's a returning state medalist at 106 pounds. He gave him all he could handle, beating him in overtime, and then Wyatt Lutz as well. And then in Bayless's match, I mean, he was right there with him, losing 1-0. So, I mean, I like the way he wrestled. You could really see the potential, and I think he's going to be a special kid to watch for the next couple of years.
120 pounds, the only WPIAL medalist was Manny Doveshek of Bentworth. He finishes in 7th place, dropped a tight 7-4 decision to Isaac Crowell of Fort LaBeouf, and then came down and dropped a 5-1 decision to Andrew Ishko of Reynolds. The toughest draw, though, is Tyler Simmerman of Derry. He loses 3-1 to Chase Shields of Bishop McDevitt Harrisburg, who finishes in 2nd, and then he drops a 3-2 decision to Richie Markolix of Notre Dame GP, who finishes in 3rd. So we talk about those guys who are top 8 wrestlers but don't finish in the top 8. Simmerman is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I think Simmerman is one of those guys who had the unfortunate circumstances where he had Chase Shields in that early round, the quarterfinal matchup, and then have Mark Kukulix that early in the Conti round. That's a tough task to come back from. But on the other side of the coin, Manny Doveshek, who is 5th in the region, he has a favorable draw, beats Dorian Gonzalez of Newport, and then comes back and picks up a few wins to get into the blood round. So, yeah, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. And Simmerman, I mean, I think he obviously has a couple more years to go, so I think he'll get a state medal.
126 pounds, Gavin Teasdale makes history. He is your 4-time state champion. He ends up earning the Outstanding Wrestler Award with it as he wins 2-0 over Josh Jones of Saucon Valley for the title. Wins it with a pair of escapes. Jones actually chose top position for his choice. Before then, he was pretty dominant in getting to that point. A 14-5 win, 11-4, as well as a tech fall in the opening round. But were you a little surprised with how he wrestled in the finals?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, Jones is a really tough wrestler, number one. Number two, I mean, Gavin sort of, had an up and down season for Gavin's, standpoint from his, where he's been at in his career. This senior year probably didn't go as exactly how planned, but he wrestled tough. I mean, it's a hard thing to do to win 4 state titles. Just ask Spencer Lee. I mean, it's very difficult. Things have to go your way a lot of times. And, I think it was almost, and we'll talk when we talk to him in a second. I'm going to ask him, but I think he was just relieved to get it over with, and now he can move on. Because there's a lot of pressure on a kid like that.
He had so much pressure. I mean, he comes into his freshman campaign before he even stepped on the mat. The first time people were comparing him to Kerry Colat.
Yeah,
those are comparisons that should not be made until this year when he's a senior, undefeated, going for 4, not on his first match of his high school career.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I'm happy to see Gavin get it done, and I'm very curious to see how the next couple of years goes for him. And I think really the sky's the limit for Gavin.
Joining us now is the 126-pound state champion, Gavin Teasdale. Gavin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Congratulations on winning 4 state championships. You finally got the one here in your senior season to cap it off. How does it feel to, now that it's all said and done, be a 4-time state champion?
Yeah, the season definitely went by fast, but, just looking forward to Dapper Dan next week and, just working forward for freestyle and so on.
And Gavin, we talked after the match, and you said you just said, "Hey, it's been a roller coaster for a senior year," and I can't argue with that. I mean, what do you think about the senior season? I know you're kind of relieved to have this chapter kind of closed. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. But definitely looking on the season, going through ups and downs. You see, we did good on the season. You see, we did bad. You see, like how some people can scout what you do better in matches. I mean, I took a lot away from the season, goods and bad. So I mean, just looking forward to the next event, just not looking in the past.
And talking about looking at next event, you've got to be excited for a chance to wrestle Pat Glory, a guy who you're very familiar with. You wrestled him twice in the Power 8, and you wrestled at Who's Number One in a match that you were very close to winning that match. You were in that match, in on his legs. What are you going to do different this time around to make sure you secure that victory?
Yeah, I'm going to definitely know to finish my shots definitely a lot cleaner than I did at Who's Number One. Protecting my ankle is definitely number one key right there. The shit ton of attacks really. Not worried about his defense, just sticking to my offense and doing what I'm good at and just leaving it all on the mat.
Hey, Gavin, to look back on what you've accomplished for 4 state championships, do you feel like at any point in your career, you're always talking about looking to the next match and looking to the off season and improving, but looking back on it now, did you feel like you had any pressure throughout this 4 years?
Not really. I just took it one step at a time, really. I just took it a practice at a time and just wrestled, just went out there and wrestled every other match as I would in my home wrestling gym, as I would a Power 8 or any other event, you know what I mean? It was definitely a fun 4 years. It took definitely got better and learned a lot from the sport.
Did you have any nerves at all going into that state finals match, knowing that I need to win this one so I can be a 4-timer?
No, I just said my usual warm up and listening to music, calm, just not even looking up in the crowd or anything, just going out on the mat and wrestle as I would any other match.
And Gavin, you said you're looking forward to freestyle. I know you said you want to make a world team. What's it going to take for you to get back to that dominance that you've had in the world stage? You've been to a world tournament before. You're now entering your final real season of freestyle. What's it going to take for you to really do and reach your goals in freestyle?
Yeah, just taking practices and wrestling with John Jody and all like that. But yeah, I just approach any other season as I would any other year, as I did in the past, and wrestling, make the world team. That's my biggest thing. I want to do this summer, and just working towards my goals before I get off to college at Penn State.
And speaking of Penn State, Gavin, how excited are you to be a Nittany Lion and be a part of that tradition and that program up there? You've got to be just psyched to get up there to Happy Valley.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be awesome wrestling around with the top competition in the country, and I know a lot of them. I knew a lot of them from the past. It's going to be awesome going up there and wrestling around with them, winning some national titles.
Do you know what weight you'll start at Penn State, Gavin?
No, I'm not too sure yet, but I'm going to be talking to Cal. Just whatever happens. You know what I mean?
Do you expect a red shirt out of the gates, or are you hoping you'll get to step out freshman year?
I mean, I'll step out if I need to. I mean, it's like whatever. Like, I'm excited. Like, I'm game for whatever. So, I mean, it's going to be fun competing up there. You know what I mean?
Oh, no doubt about it. Well, congratulations on winning 4 state championships. It's been a lot of fun watching you throughout your high school career, and best of luck as you head to Penn State.
Yeah, nice talking to you, too. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Gavin. Thanks, Gavin.
I'll see you.
Thanks again to Gavin Teasdale at Jefferson Morgan for joining us on the show. 132 pounds, a pair of medalists for the WPIAL. They finished 7th and 8th, and they're both freshmen. Anthony Corrado of Burrell, he finishes in 7th place. Trent Schulteis of Freedom in 8th. Corrado winning 7-0 in that 7th place match. Schulteis had to wrestle Alex Miskovich of Mount Pleasant in the second round of consolations to get to that point. A rematch of the finals from the WPIAL Championships, and Schulteis wins again a 4-2 decision to knock the senior and keep him from getting a medal. But overall, 2 impressive freshmen throughout the season, and they finished 7th and 8th.
Yeah, I mean, Trent Schulteis really impressed me. He didn't look good in his first match against Zach Rupp from Upper Dauphin, loses 10-6, but then he bounces back and gets some huge wins. As you said, Tyler Thompson, he beats him 3-2. Al Miskovich beats him 4-2. And then the biggest match, I think, was against Bodie Tolbert from Bishop McDevitt. He denies him a second spot on the podium. He gets into the top 8. And, really impressive by him and both A.J. Corrado.
138, WPIAL did not have a wrestler in the weight class. 145, Tyler Griffiths. He is a gamer when it comes to the Giant Center. He ends up finishing in 3rd place in the state as he had a tough 3-2 loss to the eventual state champion, Nathan Hobart of Palisades, in the semifinals. Drops down, beats Caleb Hetrick by injury default of Brookville, but he ends up finishing in 3rd. Michael Kusick of South Fayette, he finishes in 7th place. He and Joe DeMore of Southside wrestle for an opportunity to get a medal, and Kusick ends up beating him this time around 5-4. Kusick in 7th, DeMore does not medal.
Yeah, and DeMore had a tough draw. I mean, 41-1 in the season, a Southwest champion, and he's on the same side as Colin Myers, who beats him 10-4 in a very convincing win, but then he drops down and has to wrestle Michael Kusick, who's coming off of 2 wins. And in fact, he had a really big win over Austin Lee from Berlin in the first round of the Consi. So, yeah, tough draw for DeMore, but really good job by Tyler Griffiths. Finished 3rd in the region and then finished 3rd in the state. Like you said, he's a gamer inside the Giant Center.
152 pounds. The surprise, I think, of the tournament, Thayne Lawrence of Fraser. He is your state champion. He beats Justin McCoy at Chestnut Ridge 8-1. It's not that he was a state champion. It's the fact that how he turned the tables against McCoy, a guy he got majored by just 2 weeks ago. He ends up winning this one 8-1 in convincing fashion. And in addition to that, Lawrence was actually trailing by a 5-point margin to Andrew Tadero of Mount Union in the semifinals, and rallies back and puts up 9 straight points to win that match 9-5 just to get to the finals. What a tournament for Thayne Lawrence to win gold.
I mean, that was huge. That was just a huge performance. And someone today at work asked me what the most, surprising or impressive performance. And I said, Thayne Lawrence, period. For what he did in 2 weeks to come back after Justin McCoy majored him in the Southwest Region Finals to now was just incredible. You don't turn around 8 points on a state champion like that. And as you said, in the semifinals, he barely made it to the finals. I mean, he beat him 9-5, but I mean, he just squeaked, and got through. And, I said this in the last 2 weeks, and I said I needed to see more out of Thayne. I need to see more out of Thayne. I didn't think he was going to make the finals because the way he was wrestling. He did something, and I'm curious to ask him what he did in those 2 weeks, because whatever it did, it worked. Very impressive. He broke Justin McCoy in that finals match. I mean, he literally McCoy wasn't able to do anything from bottom position. And, man, Thayne Lawrence, really impressive. Really just shocked everybody here at 152 pounds.
Corey Christie of Burrow also gets on the award stand. He finishes in 5th place. He did drop a decision to Justin McCoy in the semifinals, but Christie winning 3 straight matches to get to the semis. Good tournament for Christie to get on the podium.
Yeah, for Christie, a guy who was making his first trip to Hershey. He made the most of that trip, and I think he well-deserved medal for him.
And joining us now is your 152-pound champion, Thayne Lawrence from Fraser. Thayne, thanks for joining us on the show.
How you doing?
Congratulations on winning a state championship. Talk a little bit about winning that state gold. Is it sunk in yet? Does it feel how different does it feel compared to last year where you were on the podium, but being a champion this year?
This year it seems a little different. 13-year-old, well, I don't know if it just hasn't hit me yet how big of an accomplishment it is, or if it's just like it seems like I'm always striving for more. But it does seem different than last year, coming out third and first.
And this year you get to this finals where you end up knocking off Justin McCoy. Turn the tables from 2 weeks earlier where you had dropped a major decision to Justin. Talk about what you did differently from the match 2 weeks prior.
What I did differently is I started watching my film when I lost, had my coaches watch it, and I really started recruiting and see what he was planning on doing, and I tried to stop some of the stuff. And then I just went out there this time. I was a little bit worried before when I first wrestled him, and this time I went out there just ready to wrestle. There was no pressure. I went out there and just see how many points I could put up.
Well, Thayne, you just looked absolutely dominating in that finals match. It looked like you broke Justin. Your top game was on point. Did your confidence just continue to rise as the match went on? Because it certainly felt like that from a fan perspective. It seemed like the longer the match went on, the more dominant you became. Did it feel like that?
Yeah. Once I got that first takedown, it was really like a good confidence booster. After that, I just kept trying to put up points and see how many points I get going and see how big of a lead I can get on.
And Thayne, how many people are still asking? We had people calling us when you were down Super 32 making noise. Where's this Frazier? Now people, I think you've put Frazier on the map. How big is this for the program and for the kids that are looking up to someone like you?
This is huge. Hopefully, I bet this gets out some other kids to our program. This year we only ended up with 5 kids, and with only 5 kids, it's pretty hard to win a dual meet. I'm hoping next year we get up to about 10, maybe 12 kids, and maybe get a chance to win a couple dual meets.
And you get to be your first state champion for Frazier. What's that mean to you as well?
Right now, I don't think it means a lot, but down the road, I think it'll mean a lot. But as of right now, to the teachers and everything that's been in my school, they understand how big it is for me to be a state champion. And the first state champion for Frazier I ever had, I think it's a pretty big accomplishment.
And Thayne, we've seen you compete on multiple different stages. And where do you go from here? I mean, you got Flow Nationals coming up. I know you've been down to Super 32. What's in store for you this offseason after you celebrate this victory?
This offseason, I'm going to go to Flow and TFC, but then I'm just going to keep training throughout the summer, keep in shape and keep sharp on what I'm doing, and just see what comes next year.
Well, Thayne, congratulations on winning a state title, and we appreciate you joining us, and best of luck as you head through the offseason, and we look forward to talking to you next year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thayne. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Thayne Lawrence of Frazier for joining us on the show. 160 pounds of WPIAL finishes with 1 medalist. That was Sean Gates of Burrell. After winning his first match and then dropping a fall to Jacob Callenborn, who ended up being your state runner-up, Gates pulls off a pair of wins, including a big one over Cole Sosong, to get an opportunity to get a medal, and he finishes in 8th place.
Yeah, I think Sean Gates had a great tournament for him to come out and get on the podium. I don't think a lot of people had him on the podium, but he beats Blaze Bressler from Northern Lebanon. And then that overtime match again with Cole Sosong, it was huge for him. A great tournament for him out of Burrell.
170, a pair of WPIAL wrestlers get on the award stand. Christian Clutter of McGuffey, he finishes in 4th place. Jaden Datz of Southmoreland in 5th place.
Yeah, and Clutter's only 2 losses were the same wrestler. He lost to Dalton Group in the quarterfinals and then lost him in the 3rd and 4th place match. So Christian Clutter, I thought, really wrestled well. You're talking about a junior who came out from the 4th place finisher in the region. So, yeah, I think he wrestled really tough.
182 pounds of WPIAL with a 5th place finish from John Bargo of Bentworth.
Yeah, John Vargo, definitely impressive here, and kind of a deep weight class. It's definitely, you looked at the top 3, obviously, Mulligan, Goring, and Garcia, and even some of the other ones like Shedletsky and Lewandowski. Those are all tough guys. So for Vargo to be in that mix, definitely a good tournament for him, and only a junior.
Yeah, and finishing in 5th place. 195 pounds, Bryson Miller of Freedom. He is your 6th place finisher. He had the tough draw of wrestling Gavin Hoffman of Montoursville, who, by the way, if there was a second OW, it was definitely Gavin Hoffman. He was so impressive throughout the tournament, but Bryson Miller finishing in 6th.
Yeah, Bryson Miller wrestling tough, and for him to get into the semifinals, he had to beat Clay Verbanek from Cambridge Springs, a returning state medalist. So Bryson Miller, just another junior as well. So you're seeing a common theme here. A lot of these guys are going to be coming back next year and hopefully looking for gold.
Yeah, expecting a lot of big things. 220 pounds, another junior. Finishes in second place, Dom DeLuca of Derry. He beats Hunter Paust of Muncie, 8-4 in the quarterfinals. He beats Jacob McMaster of Greenville, a guy who beat Landon Fisher handily in the quarters. He beats McMaster to get to the finals. Unfortunately, he could not keep up with Anthony Walters, but a second-place finish, a strong showing for DeLuca.
Yeah, and DeLuca moves up the podium. I mean, he was fourth last year. He comes out with second this year, so nothing to be upset about. He had a really good match against Hunter Paust, and after seeing what McMaster did to Fisher, I thought, okay, this is going to be a tough one. And he hands Jacob Master, he came into the match 40-0, and he hands him his first loss of the season to get into the final. So I was very impressive with the way he wrestled there. McMaster comes back to take third. So good job by Dom DeLuca.
And 285 pounds at WPIAL with a para medalist, Bishop McCoy of Southside, finishes in second place, falls just short of winning the gold as he lost to Danny Shive of Tri-Valley 3-2 in the finals. David Schufert of Valley finishes in seventh place. And
we thought Schufert was going to have a good tournament, and he did just that. Had some really big wins, but Bishop McCoy, I mean, he was right there with them, throughout the tournament, just hanging tight with guys. And McCoy, man, he was close. That Shive match, that was a tight match, and Schufert lost to Shive as well, 6-4. So definitely nothing to be ashamed of his performance there.
As far as the state tournament as a whole, medal count wise, the WPIAL had a strong showing.
Yeah, and you look at the AAA State Tournament, and District 7 led the tournament with the number of medalists. They had 33 medalists in AAA. The second best team was District 3 with 22. So you're looking at 11 better than the second place team. So you look at that, I thought that was huge for them. They had 56 wrestlers enter, 150 wins, Tony, 97 losses, and as I said, 33 medals. That is really impressive for the WPIAL.
State tournament, one thing I'd want to mention is that the number of times matches were stopped, I felt like was a little on the extreme as compared to other tournaments. When you look at Powerade, you look at the county tournaments we go to, you look at WPIALs and sections and regionals. You look at all those tournaments. The state tournament, a lot of blood time, which you can't control, but you also had a lot of coaches going over to the table. Never once did I see a call get overturned when a coach went to the table.
No.
But I think every match, a coach went over 2, 3, 4 times. And I understand why you do it, because you want to show your wrestler, hey, I'm going to back you up, I'm going to defend you, and you want to kind of say to the referee, hey, okay, you missed that one, make sure you owe me one on the next one. But at the end of the day, it slowed up so many matches. I feel like at the state tournament, kind of like how college coaches, they get one brick. That's what you need. You get one time to go argue a call, and that is it.
Yeah, then sit down. Did the coaches have valid arguments? Yeah, I'm sure they did, because I thought but
no call got overturned.
No, of course not. Of course not. I thought the refereeing was subpar here, and I heard that consistently throughout all the coaches. There was very few, and were there some good refs there? Absolutely, but for the majority of it, people are saying the refereeing here is atrocious. And I didn't hear it from just one person who had one wrestler have a bad call. I heard it from multiple coaches throughout. I've even heard it from some refs, fellow referees. I was like, well, I don't know what you want to do about that. But so, did they have valid arguments go to the table? I'm sure. But as you said, it just slowed matches up. It's not like you're going to watch video replay and have a call overturned. It's just not the case.
Right.
And you look at AA, for the numbers in AA, District 7 had 40 wrestlers qualify. They had 82 wins to 75 losses, so a little bit lower than you would in AAA. But they did have 18 medalists coming back to the WPIAL. That is third. The highest was District 4 with 22. District 10 had 20. So they were right up there with the best of them.
And a great showing overall by AA and AAA in the WPIAL. That's it for the high school season. We have the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic still to come. Who are we looking at as far as some of the guys that we'll be seeing? at that prestigious event.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good matchups here, and you just look at the WPIAL team. There's a lot of talent here. You got all seniors here, but Frank Benor at 113 pounds, a state medalist as a junior. Louis Newell at 120 pounds, a two-time state finalist, a four-time state medalist. He's in there at 120. He's going to be wrestling at Pittsburgh, so that's pretty neat for him. Caleb Morris at 126 pounds, a four-time state qualifier, a two-time WPIAL champ. He's going to be in there, and then Noah Levitt, he's down to 32 for the PWC. He's going to be competing at 132 pounds, where he's a one-time WPIAL champ, three-time state medalist. Tyler Griffiths, a guy who we said just showed up in Hershey, he's going to be wrestling at 138 pounds, coming down from 145 with that 5-pound allowance. He is a two-time WPIAL champ and a state runner-up last year, third this year. So really good career out of Tyler. Luke Kemmer from Hempfield, we talked about him and how he wrestled. He's going to be wrestling in his home gym. He's going to Pitt. If he has no pressure, if he just goes out there like he did in the Conci rounds, I think he's going to be just fine. But Luke Kemmer is going to be in there. He's a one-time WPIAL champ. Corey Christie from Burrell's in there at 152 pounds. Had a great senior season this year. He won the Westmoreland County Tournament, which was featured guys like Jack Bloomer, Brock Godson, and Tyler Griffiths. So, I mean, you look at the amount of talent there. And Corey Christie won that. 160 pounds, Kyle Hammett from Waynesburg Central, a guy who we saw in the state tournament multiple times, wasn't able to break through to get to the podium, but still a solid wrestler. And Jesse Quatsi from Greensburg-Salem, probably one of the most impressive wrestlers of the WPIAL over the weekend. He gets the nod at 170 pounds for Greensburg-Salem after finishing fourth in the states. That was very impressive. 182 pounds, Tim Wallace, a state runner-up this year. He was third last year, two-time WPIAL champ, upset this year, but still in there at 182 pounds. 195, Nate Ansell from Collinsville, one-time WPIAL champ. Looked good this year, looked good at the state tournament this year, getting into the semifinals. So definitely a solid pick there at 195 pounds. 220 pounds, Ian Edenfield from Laurel Highlands. Definitely not the finish he wanted to his career, but he's still a two-time WPIAL champion, a two-time state medalist, finishing runner-up as a junior. So that was a good showing by him over his career. And then Gerald Brown from West Mifflin. GB comes in as a two-time state medalist. Really liked the way he wrestled here in the final stretch of the season, coming back to get third over a guy who beat him. So really solid lineup for the WPIAL. Gets Team Iowa. I was obviously pretty stacked themselves, but the WPIAL is going to give them they're going to give them a run.
And they're missing some of their key guys who are on the PA team. What WPIAL wrestlers are on that PA squad?
Yeah, so there's going to be a few from the WPIAL who are going to be competing for Team Pennsylvania. You got Logan Macri. There's going to be two 120-pound bouts being contested here at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. Logan Macri is going to be on one of those, and he's obviously a state champ from Canyon Mac. You also have Gavin Teasdale from Jefferson Morgan. Do we need to say more?
Nope.
Four-time state champion going to Penn State. Only two career losses in his career. He's going to have a rematch with Pat Glory from New Jersey. You got Zach Hartman from Bell Vernon. Zach Hartman, who's not a state champion, but really, you look at the guy and what he's been able to do over his career, three-time state medalist, so consistent, so tough. He's 170-25 in his career. He's very highly ranked. He moves down to 152, which is a little bit of a weaker weight, and I think it's a smart move with Hartman down there at 52 to give him a shot to win this. And then at 285 pounds, Isaac Reid at heavyweight, having that state championship this last year, he's going to be competing there at 285 pounds. So, yeah, good showing for the WPIAL in both the PA and the WPIAL team.
Make sure you go out and support all the WPIAL wrestlers who will be wrestling. And this event will take place when?
It'll be on Sunday, March 25th at 4 p.m. inside Fitzgerald Fieldhouse on the campus of Pittsburgh University. It's a great event. All goes to charity, the Boys and Girls Club. And, it's just, I tell all my non-wrestling fans, if you want to see the best wrestling, you got to come here. I mean, people that know little to nothing about wrestling, they can come out to this event and thoroughly enjoy it just because of the high level of wrestling and intensity that we see. We see people let it fly. I mean, it's an all-star event. It's for charity. I mean, we're not talking about winning a state title. Do they compete? Absolutely. But it's fun. It's a great event. I'm happy to be a part of it. And it's the pinnacle of what PA Power represents. It's Pennsylvania versus USA. Does it get any better than that?
Well, it's been a lot of fun having the show on PA Power for year one, carrying it over from what we've done in the past, Jeff.
I think it was a successful year for us, right? Would you say?
I think so, yeah. We managed to not kill each other.
We didn't kill each other,
season.
right? Well, it was close. This last episode was getting there.
It was.
We were like teetering on the edge of...
after being together all weekend, too.
True, that's true.
We just spent too much time together, I think, these last couple weeks.
So when you go and call me in a month and I ignore your call, you know why.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll call you in a month. It might be like 3 or 4.
Oh, please. You'll be calling me in a month. Maybe sooner than that.
We'll see.
All right.
We want to thank everyone who has followed our show throughout the entire season and all the guests and people that helped contribute to make it so much fun throughout the season. We've enjoyed covering the WPIAL for you guys, and we look forward to doing it next season, and hope you'll come back and listen much, much more as you have throughout this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo what you said, Greg, and thank you to all our fans and, giving us support throughout the year and letting us know you're listening. It's just been an honor to serve the wrestling community, and we look forward to bringing it back again next year.
No doubt about it. Make sure you stay with PA Power Wrestling throughout the entire off season. These guys are still doing podcasts going on.
Yeah, we don't rest, unfortunately. We got NCAAs coming up this next weekend. We're going to be out in Cleveland. We got Flow Nationals. We got Fargo. We got Super 32. We got a couple other tournaments coming your way. We have, we're going to have something probably coming up in the preseason that you're going to want to know about. We don't sleep. So no. PA Power Wrestling isn't going away. The season may be over, but we're just getting started.
No doubt about it. For my broadcast partner, Jeff Upson, I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on the WPIAL.